I find myself pacing up and down the hallways of Vervain Cottage, just trying different doorways to see what rooms lay within. I could probably spend the rest of my life exploring this house and visiting every room. I could do it day after day and still not remember which room was which. But I could try. It wasn't like I had anything else to do. I still hadn't heard back from Melodia, and I couldn't sit with Hieronymous any longer. How was I supposed to sit there holding his hand while he was probably being intimate with Violet inside his dream? Maybe he wasn't, but then again, they did have 3 kids together. How did time pass in dream time? Did he wake up thinking they had 3 kids together, or did his dream life actually start from the beginning of his life? If it did, then he would accept everything he saw and experienced as real life. No questions asked. Suddenly, I try to open one door at the end of a long hallway, but it's strangely locked. I twist the doorknob back and forth in both hands, but it's strangely resistant. "Come on, open up," I say to the door, but it doesn't open. "Open up! Open up! Open up! Open up!" I don't realize that I'm sobbing and banging on the door with both fists until I feel a sharp shooting pain spread down my arm. The tears bubble and burst out of me like water through a fountain, and I stand there for a moment with my hands on my knees, trying to calm myself down. Breathe, Tori. Just breathe. I take a few steps back, and I'm just about to use a spell to blast the door open when a flash of blue suddenly appears in front of the door. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," he warns, and for a moment I'm so happy to see him I almost wrap my arms around him. "You're back. You're okay," I say, smiling wildly at him. "I was so worried about you." He narrows his eyes at me. "Do not mock me. I am your slave. I am bound to serve you. You do not have feelings for—" "But I do," I tell him earnestly. "I am so happy to see you. I'm crying again, and the menace just stares at me. "You saved me back there," I remind him. "You might be bound to the Grabiner name, but you are also my friend. Do you have a name?" "No master has ever asked for my name before," he says in surprise. "It's Pejorgen." "Hi, Pejorgen," I say with a loud sniff. "I'm Tori." He stares at me for another moment. "You would have been Ash if you had completed your spell on that door." I blink at him, wiping away tears with the back of my sleeve. I had actually cried so much over the past day that my sleeve was now crusty with dried tears, but I could change later. "Wait, it's booby-trapped? Why?" "This is where Lord Grabiner does his research," he replies, and I can't help but stare at him. "Can you get me in that room?" I ask him, and he nods. "Consider it done," he replies as he disappears. I wait in silence for a few moments before the door suddenly swings open and the menace extends his arm towards me and does a small bow, inviting me inside. "Whoa," I say as I glance at the room all around me. It's a tall room, just as tall as the library, but there are books and papers everywhere. I knew his office was messy, but this was even more so, and I didn't know how he found anything in this mess. Then again, he could probably just use a spell to summon whatever he wanted to his hand, and the mess was there to entertain people like me, people who had no business being there. "I think this will interest you most of all," the man says as he leads me off into a small room I hadn't noticed between the stacks of books. There's a small table along one side connected to some kind of basin swirling with colors in a vortex that seems to go down and down and down with no end in sight. "What is this thing?" I ask as I draw closer, assured that the Manus would protect me if this was as dangerous as it looked. "Cast spirit echoes," he tells me, and I hesitate before I do as he instructs, trying to focus on what he wanted me to see. I see Hieronymous standing at the basin with his back to me before he suddenly turns to regard a figure lying motionless on the table beside him. Wait, that's me! I exclaim, and suddenly I know why Hieronymous had expected me to be a lot angrier about his memory experiments. But how did I get here? I don't remember any of this. You couldn't be awake for this, the menace replies. This is delicate magic. If you woke up, who knows what it might do to your mind? I can't help but gape at him. So this was when Hieronymous took my memories out of me, and he stored them in that basin? As if on cue, I can see Hieronymous put his hand on my forehead. He seems to be extracting a long, wispy filament from my brain before he moves it around in his hands a few times and lowers it into the basin. All of your memories of your time together are stored in that basin, the menace explains. If you were to ever lose your memories, he could use it to help you remember who he was. Yeah, I say quietly, casting my eyes down to the floor. The menace seems to be waiting for me to say something, but when I don't, he speaks again. And if he were to lose his memories, you could use it to help him remember who you are. I blink as I look up at him suddenly. Wait, do you mean I could potentially use this to help Hieronymous wake up? He nods, and I can feel hope rising in my chest before I shake my head. He's where he wants to be. I gesture to the basin. This is a happy story without an ending. Happy stories don't have endings, so I'll just leave this as it is. And then it doesn't have to end. With that, I quickly turn on my heel and run out of the room. There's probably more in his office that I should inspect, but I couldn't. Not right now. Right there, in that basin, was a story about a girl who had fallen in love with, and married, her teacher. They had ups and downs, but in the end, he had fallen in love with her as well, and they were determined to stand by each other and live happily ever after for the rest of their lives. That was supposed to be the way our story ended, but right now, it didn't seem possible. No, that basin probably contained the only happy ending I could hope for. After all, Hieronymous and I were both mortals. One of us would eventually die. At least this way, if the story didn't end, I'd never have to acknowledge that. I'm wondering if there's a way to channel the memories in the basin so I could just keep reliving them over and over again when I realize that someone is calling my name. Mariette? I asked blankly, using track scent in order to find her in the hallways. Are you looking for me? Yes, she replies. A woman and her son have arrived to see you. They introduce themselves as Melodia and Beige. My eyes go wide. If anyone was going to have answers for me, it was Melodia. Where are they?